Hello and welcome to From the Heart. I am your host, Bernita Jackson, and I am back with three of my new friends. We are talking about work like a woman. These are three African American female entrepreneurs here in our region, and they have some amazing stories to share with you. Let me introduce them. To my left is Zena. She is with ZW Design Inc. She designs clothing and uniforms and all types of branding. You're definitely going to want to hear her story. And next, my new friend in this beautiful blue is Pamela. She is an author and a developmental editor. If you have an interest in writing, if that's been your dream to get that book published, this is the lady you're going to want to hear from. And so also on my far right is Latanya. She is the young lady that is bringing us relaxation and entertainment. She is with Pop the Cork Wine Tours. Believe it or not, we have beautiful wineries here in the state of Georgia, and this is the lady that takes you to visit them. So I'd like for you all to welcome my new friends and join us for this conversation, Work Like a Woman. So, ladies, welcome, welcome. So glad you're here with me. And I'm excited to hear from female entrepreneurs. So I want you all to tell us a little bit about your business and kind of share your story, kind of give us the short, because we want to just enjoy and invite our listeners into our conversation. So Zena, tell me how you got started.
Well, I got started by wanting to make apparel for myself because of being very petite when I was young, prior to high school. When I got ready to go to high school, the first class I signed up for was sewing. And I started making myself clothes in that class and learned to love it. And I started making clothes for everybody in the family, friends of family, concert goers, and so forth and so on. And I went on and on in the field and then on to design school and got my degree in fashion design and business. And I moved to Atlanta as soon as possible because I was hot in my heart for hot Atlanta. And once I moved here, I worked in the manufacturing business. And from there, I eventually realized that there were a lot of companies that could use my technical skills, which I was a pattern grader at the time, but I'm a pattern maker, pattern grader, and all of that. And I just help people develop their apparel lines. And that became a niche for doing a lot of companies that were either in the Buckhead, North Island, downtown Atlanta area, or whatever areas. And basically, I call it they put me in the basement with my sewing machine and never let me out. That's where the workroom is.
Wonderful. What Zena didn't share with you, she has worked with our industry. You know, now the South, we are the Hollywood of the South here in Atlanta, and she has worked with many of our production companies and TV companies and movie companies. You will see her work. You may not have known it, but now you know. Pamela, tell us how you got started as an author.
Well, my road to becoming an author was very long and very winding. I grew up with five sisters, so we were all doing fashion shows, but I wasn't into that. I was more of the jock of the family, but that kind of led me to be the outside. So then I discovered reading, and once I discovered reading, that quiet time, that me time, the time that I spent by myself, that's where I developed this great love for reading. So the reading, I would lay in bed at night and create these fantasy stories about characters, make up my own characters, and they were like real people, and most writers would tell you their characters, they're almost like real people. And then from there, I, joined the military right out of high school. So at that time, I wasn't really into writing. I was still an avid reader. I've always read. So I raised my kids, was a military wife because I eventually got out of the military. And then I was one day I took my son to a swim meet, and there was a lady there that was writing, and I said, "What are you doing?" And she told me, and I'm like, "Wow, that sounds exciting." So I started it, and next thing I know, I'm writing, and I caught the bug. But I think it all starts from my love of reading.
And so also Pam is a developmental editor. So for others who love to write, you bring your work to you and she helps you kind of birth your dream in words. Latonya, how'd you get started?
Well, I've been on a long path. First of all, I was raised in Compton, California. And my grandmother, who was very forward thinking, sent me as a graduation present to Italy. And that was the first time, my eyes just opened to the whole world of vineyards and winemaking and just the whole process. And so that was my first exposure. So I've always been in that space, just like excited about it. I actually had a long career in advertising with Yellow Pages, but always in the back of my mind, it was just that something about that whole winemaking, tasting, the whole process. And being a director in corporate America, dinners and wine tasting and, wine drinking was a part of, being in that space. So I just continued on with that path, but always had that entrepreneurial spirit. But I stuck it out. I did the corporate thing. And once I was getting closer, not closer to retirement, but further in my career, we moved to the Temecula Valley area where they had a wine country. So we were always taking family and friends there. And when they would, come, someone had to be the designated driver. Mm-hmm. So one day, on a whim, I said, I'm going to put a tour together. I knew the winemakers in the Temecula area, and I rented a 50-passenger bus. Wow. I just put a package together. Friends and family sold out like that. Wow. It started off annually. The next year, 100 tickets sold, and then 150. I literally capped it off at 150. And we did those types of tours for 11 years. I was still working. My job transferred me to the Atlanta area 8 years ago. And my plan was to just come here, do 2 years, retire, go back home. And my husband, Chuck from Memphis, Tennessee, loves, the South. So here we are still. Mm-hmm. But when I found out the Atlanta, Northern Georgia part here had a wine country and no one seemed to know about it, I actually took every weekend. Chuck and I would go visit wineries, actually meet the owners, the winemakers, and we started a successful business 6 years ago. March was 6 years.
Amazing, amazing. So ladies, I think, Latonya, you brought up something, the entrepreneurial spirit. That is a gift. Everybody doesn't possess that. So what was it about being kind of, the creator of your own journey that appealed to you ladies?
Well, as an author, being an author is like being part of a community. We always help each other. I'm a member of a critique group that's 5 other ladies. We get together and we critique each other's work. So, and other authors would approach me to help them to develop their stories. So I said, okay, well, let me see if I can turn this into a business. And I did, and that's how I ended up getting started with it.
Amazing. What about you?
Just that whole thing. I always said I felt like I was an entrepreneur trapped in corporate America. I'm glad I did put the time in though and retired. But just something, being able to create something that you love to do and with that passion. Yes. And just I probably work harder now than I ever did in my life, but it's something that I love doing, just sharing with others. So
wonderful. How did you catch that entrepreneurial spirit?
Well, I didn't realize I had an entrepreneurial spirit until because I was just making clothes for people, and people were paying me. Mm-hmm. And little did I know, once I got out of college and found out, oh, this is officially a business. Mm-hmm. I've been doing this for people all this time and didn't know. So once I knew, and then I sought after other companies, and that I just love the idea that many times a smaller company, especially, would have no idea how to go beyond the idea of their concepts. And for me, I was always one who loved numbers and loved computers and loved sewing, and putting it all together to help them go from ideation to manufacturing was something that I loved. So finding pieces of that was the custom areas, the costuming areas of film, TV, and theater. And so these different pockets were areas that I decided, let's find out what we can do with this pocket or that pocket. You know, a family member that's a minister asked me about making a custom robe and robes for his choir for his, I believe that was his first church that he got. And, you know, thank God with Reverend Dr. Carl Moore, he was so kind as to let me do that. And from there, I became a robe maker. So developing robes and offering that was another area. So just different avenues. And I always saw it when I first started sewing as it's something that everybody has to wear. You know, you need to put on some clothes. I mean, who knew body painting would come along and there would be other options. But basically, that was my logic, that I would never go without some type of work because people always have to wear clothes. So doing interiors and all of that jumped in also. So.
Wow.
A lot of times the best students don't make the best financial decisions. We work with a lot of medical residents. Typically, if we don't catch them in residency and we catch them after they've been in a position for a couple of years, we find them that they've made a lot of bad financial decisions. On the flip side of that, we've seen that a lot of our entrepreneurs, they weren't necessarily the best students in school because they were more focused on trying to have a much broader knowledge base.
Hey, let's check out this park. Oh, wow, that's really cool. To find a great local park or forest near you, go to discovertheforest.org.
Why am I not married? It's like, if you're not married, something is wrong with you. I'm comfortable with who I am. Would I like to get married one day? Of course. But if I don't, I'll be okay.
Just continue to live your life, find your purpose, work on yourself. And I believe when it's the right time, you know, you'll cross paths with who you want to be with, find your path, live it, and just trust God to do the rest.
So it's almost as if the spirit found you all. And so one of the things that all of you all have mentioned is community. And one of the things, actually how I found all of you ladies, is a lovely organization called Ladies in Stride. And this is a group of ladies, much like yourselves, that come together to really support each other and care for each other. It's all about community. But as you look into your community, what would you tell a young entrepreneur? Latanya, if someone says, oh, that is just amazing what you do, I have all kinds of ideas, what would you share with someone that wanted to develop their dream?
Oh, I would love to have that conversation with them. And I do. First thing I would say, really follow your passion, whatever it may be. If you're following your passion, it's not ever going to seem like work. I think one of the big hurdles is to overcome taking risk. Because with whatever you're doing, you're out on your own, you know, you are the one that's making this happen. So just really gain confidence in yourself, get a mentor, someone that can guide you along, and you can just take it wherever you want to.
Well, definitely passion, follow your passion. Also, for me, it was a little bit of, looking at your weaknesses in a different way, because I suffer from anxiety and depression. So even coming here is a big step for me. So you can look at your life, because that led me to journaling. So what do you love doing that really talks to your heart? And that's what you have to focus on, because you have to feel it in your heart to be able to be a true success at it.
What would you share with someone that wants to come into your industry, Zena?
Well, fortunately, I've had the pleasure of teaching also. So I've taught at many of the local fashion design colleges, and that in and of itself put me in a position where people who were trying to find their niche, their direction for going into fashion or technical design or interiors, costumes in various areas, it was just perfect for me to be able to share in that area. And many of them had just such a dream. Some wanted a company, some wanted a business. And it was always just such a pleasure to talk to different ones who, maybe some who had been interested in doing, say, bridal design, and seeing some of the avenues, talking through some of that with them, as well as some who were interested in the technical area. And the thing that I wanted to share the most was to be sure that you don't feel like it's a down step if you don't do the design side of it, because the technical is every bit as important as the design. There's the artistic as well as the technical.
Absolutely.
And many times the artistic will make you seem like you're settling for if you don't do the artistic. But I thought, I love working with numbers and the technical and all of that. I thought, don't let them make you feel lesser because you chose that direction. Enjoy it. And so I've worked with young people. I love mentoring young people. I do it through church. I do it through individuals. Internships, I've done it that way. I just love working with people who are trying to move to that next level, because I always feel like wherever I am, that, I have shoulders, especially for my students at the time. It's like, you don't need to start over.
Right.
You can be on my shoulders and go from there.
Oh,
You don't have to
amazing.
squash me, but you could be on my shoulders.
What a
and go from
gift.
there. And amazingly, I run across students, and some of them help me now with this technology, or some of them have been my supervisors at costume programs, and they feel that awkwardness. I'm like, it's totally okay, because I am happy to work.
Oh, amazing. So what about, I've had a career, but I've always had that entrepreneur spirit. So I'm ready to finish up maybe my corporate career. Is it too late for me to start?
It is never too late. Never. It does not matter. It's just, if you have that passion and you're willing to put that time in, you can follow your dreams, and the rewards are just amazing.
That is true. Yes. As a writer, we always have an inside joke that, you can write until you have one foot in the grave. So you could be, it's never ending. There's no such thing as a ticking time clock that's going to dictate, whether something is over or not. You decide that yourself.
Atlanta metro area is just really fertile ground for business, and particularly for African American entrepreneurs. But one thing that happens in our community is legacy. So for many in other communities, there are second, third, fourth, 10th generations who are coming into their businesses, into their practices. What is your thought about legacy with your businesses and with your practice?
That is a really good one. But having your family or whomever that is want to follow that passion may not be on the same page. But actually having that foundation and it's set up to be able to pass that on to family or friends is something that is really, really good. Or either to have that foundation to help them in whatever their passion is. Because it may, like in my case, it may not be the wine space. It may be something else. But to be that support And we're a family of entrepreneurs. At one point, I was just looking at my immediate family a few years ago. I said, I'm the only one that's going to work. Everyone's being an entrepreneur. And that is my passion. So, yeah. So.
And Zena, I think you might echo that. We had an earlier conversation. And so what's your thought about legacy?
Well, for me, I am very, very passionate about legacy, about financial wealth, about generational wealth, and that our young people, young family members, older family members, if necessary, understand that it's very, very important to try to pass it on. Now, as said, you may not be interested in fashion, but let's say, for instance, the way I have my business set up is something that hopefully that you could sell, you know, may be worth selling after a while, or others may be working at it and you, because they're on my board, you know, so you must always have your foot in, so to say. So I raised my kids even with participating in the process, because there was absolutely no reason for, say, them to be upstairs watching TV while I'm downstairs working. And, you know, we can all work at this. There's no reason for it, because I knew there was something valuable to be learned. If it's bookkeeping, having gone to school with other students that, you know, in college, they were the ones who could ace the accounting classes. Why? Because they had done books for their family's company.
Sure.
You know, as the rest of us struggled along, that had no clue with any of it. So to me, that's a very, very important piece of the pie, you know, multiple streams of income, and just finding that niche and finding a way to share what you have to be next. Not everybody start over. Let's start over. Let's start over.
Right.
Well, at first, I think they thought that he was imaginary.
Her dad, he kind of accepted me right off. It was like we were almost like we already knew each other. But Mama, I tease her till this day. I say, you ain't even like me.
Once he won over my grandmother, I think my mama and Auntie Janice and everybody, like now, like they'll take Jake before they take me.
Can't do no wrong.
He can do no wrong.
My manager, we didn't know nobody. We just knocking on doors and made it work. But it was all about following my assignment. Looking on it now, because I understand what my assignment is, I was just following Christ as he led. You know what I'm saying? I always say you put Jesus Christ first, you'll never be last.
So entrepreneurship certainly should benefit the owner of the company, but how do your services and company benefit our beloved community? What is it that you share with our community that enhances this area?
One thing that, and I've been thinking about this lately too, I'm so happy that we have been able to employ more people in our business, and it's growing every day. You know, I have, I don't call them drivers anymore. We call them tour guides. And they're actually, explaining and having that passion. And some have come to our business as a driver, had no knowledge or anything about wine, have really taken it on to learn. But I think we're giving back by employing. The other thing I think is really, you had mentioned like my business relaxation. I feel our business is one where you can get away for a day and just enjoy yourself. Forget about all your worries and just have a good time, learn along the way. We're entertaining you, just having a good time and listening to some music and just a good day.
Yeah. So what do you think about in terms of what is it that being an author and a developmental editor, how does that help our community?
Well, it's in the type of stories that I choose to write. There's some recurring themes that are always in my stories, and those are family is number one. And also I try to portray families in a positive way. Stay away from a lot of stereotypes.
Yes.
Because those stories have been there, done that.
Right.
So I make sure that my stories are fresh, and also that they speak to the community. I have a YA, a young adult novel that's coming out in October. It's called Looking for Grace. And it's a 16-year-old girl that's dealing with grief and mental illness. She suffers from depression, which is something I can really relate to. So it was actually one of the easiest stories that I've written. And probably because it's something that's close to my heart also. But, just look at your community and see how you can help them by looking at your life and what touches your heart. Because when I create a character, the character is their background plus all the things that are in my heart, which are my life experiences. And that's how I give voice to my characters. And that's normally it's the community. It's the people around me.
Wow. So what is your creative process? Every entrepreneur, every artist, every author has a creative process. What would that be? What would your creative process be?
Well, my creative process always starts with where does the customer need help? And if my client needs help from beginning to end, as I tell them, even if you're doing stick figures, let's work our way from there, because we can help with the drawings, we can help with everything along the way, because they may have an idea. The idea may be a great idea, but unfortunately, them not knowing some of the basics of drawing or patterns or other things makes them feel that they can't do it. And my word is, well, that's what we're here for, is to help fill in with the parts you can't and to help you move along. But for those, say, for instance, manufacturing companies that are already in order, they've maybe worked on projects for years and bodies and styles and fits that are the same, and they are just trying to maybe add to their design line for, whatever reason, may have an outside contractor, then they have specs already. They have their design packages, they have all of that. They know where they're sending the manufacturing to, so they don't need as many of the steps. So, and that's fine with me also, because I'll pick up from wherever it is that you need to start and try not to make you feel bad from having to start there, but also try to give you outlets of areas that you can go to if their shortcomings may be more challenging.
Absolutely. Creative process.
I enjoy that aspect of my business, and it's geared around customer service, the element of surprise. So many people that come on our wine tasting tours have never been on a wine, so they don't know what to expect. So I want to make sure at the end of the day, they are leaving with a smile on their face. They are happy. They were surprised that we celebrated their birthday, their anniversary, or whatever it is, or that you're moving or you're coming here to Atlanta for the first time. But just planning that day. And I love that day of the week when I'm actually putting those tours together, because I'm like matching, the people, the tour guides. I mean, just the whole element of it, where we're going to go and visit, and just how are we going to surprise them along the way. And I always get that compliment. It's the attention to detail.
Absolutely.
And that's the creative part.
Absolutely.
And the creative aspect for me is kind of, as a writer, you're always in a little bubble. You're by yourself. I'm in my pajamas and I'm writing. But also there is this part where I get an idea. I'm more of a character-driven writer. The character comes to me first, and then I kind of plot the story around the character. But I also have my publisher that I can go to bounce off ideas, and my agent. Entangle Publishing, great. Prospect Agency, that's where my agent is out of. And they're always, good support points. So, you have to be willing to ask for help, and I know you've probably heard of writer's block, and that's, some authors believe in it and some don't. I tend to call it writer's life block because of something happens in my life, then I'm stuck and I'm not writing. But just know that you can, for me as an author, I seek help when I need it, so that's part of my creative process.
So we know that the African American dollar is massive, but usually less than 3% stay in our communities. And so what is your thought on dispelling the myths about businesses? Sometimes there's some negative myths about Black-owned businesses or Black-owned services. How would you dispel those myths?
I think the more exposure to different types of businesses that people will try will really help that. But here in Atlanta, it's really so supportive. When people find out that we're African American, they're like, oh my goodness, we are surprised. We went to your website and saw your picture and we're in. So I think it's important for us to make sure that they had that experience. That was a good one. And they will come back and try other businesses.
You mentioned exposure to other, different types of environments, and that's definitely true because mostly if you read a book or you watch TV, they portray, African Americans in a certain way. And that's why when I create stories, I try to flip that and definitely don't rely on stereotypes to create the story, just have normal day to day. This is how, we live. We have problems like everyone else, so just trying to present the Black family or any type of family. Because my family is a mixed family. I'm interracially married. And so it's, trying to even portray that in a positive light. So, it's just taking the stereotypes that people see every day on TV and showing a different side to it. So I think that that's, one way that I can contribute to dispelling this, especially in African American. You see the drug dealers on TV, you see the guns, you see all this negative stuff. So I just try to make everything positive.
So Zena, how would you dispel the myth as we begin to wrap up our conversation?
Okay. Well, for me, that is a area that I guess you could say it's real personal because one of the things that, sadly, I guess you could say, I remember a family member saying, an older family member, is that it was always, oh gosh, I can't use, our people because they just won't act right. And as I was growing up and had my own business, and I said, well, I'm a Black-owned business. So are you saying that you wouldn't want to use me? So trying to be as professional as I can. The nature of my personality is what I've been told in doing market research is something that people are very comfortable working with me because I had to ask the question of many clients from my past is why me versus somebody else? I could do it. And they were like, you teach a lot. I always learn something with you and you're so personable and you're so this, that, or the other, and you're professional and and so in my head, I am not the first nor the last person to try to be professional.
Absolutely.
I know many people. And so just as we go to a store or something, and maybe that store, you get mad at that store and you go, I don't want to go to that store, and you go to another one that may be of the same culture that owns it. You may have to find a different company that works for you, but we are out there, and there is absolutely no reason to not give us support. At least give us a try, but don't give us a try always as the last resort.
Yes, yes.
You know, or give us that kind of evil eye try, like, I'm going to try you, but I'm going to watch you like a hawk for every single thing and try to micromanage your world. But I've been very blessed, and even one of the first things that one of my alumni that I spoke with when I first moved here, because I had a list of all the alumni and went to talk to them. And one of the things that was an older white lady that I was speaking with, and she told me, she was like, now, you won't be able to get any white clients that, and I thought, oh, bless your heart. And furthermore, I already am. And it doesn't matter to me, culture, but at the same time, I do appreciate my culture. So therefore, things like developing apparel that for the Black fit was very important to me. So developing some jeans, for instance, that a company eventually bought out the company that I built that fit around for the Black curvy woman. And, they took it to another level.
Absolutely.
But basically, turns out that's my little jean.
Absolutely. Amazing.
I wanted to add something here, and we're in the perfect time now with social media.
Yes.
It can be good or bad, but social media can do just great things for your business. Because the first thing people are doing now, I saw your reviews.
Absolutely.
And they were 5-star.
Absolutely.
So you want to make sure you're doing everything you can, and you're going to have some hiccups, but address those issues and just, do great customer service.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining me. Work Like a Woman. You have met 3 of my very new friends. This is Zena with Z&W Designs. This is Pamela. She is an author and a developmental editor. And this is LaTanya with Pop the Cork Wine Tours. Can't wait to go to North Georgia. And so I want to thank each of you. This has been such a wonderful conversation. Thank you for joining us. And remember, all the issues of life are from the heart. I am your host, Bernita Jackson, and we are so glad you had this conversation with us.
Can we actually trust the information that we're receiving about COVID-19? And can we trust the vaccine itself as it relates to people of color?
I feel so intimately connected to this topic of mistrust as it relates to the African American community because of the unethical practices of the past that we've experienced. As far as trusting the information that we receive about the vaccine, I would advise persons listening is to consider the source of your information.